r/ask Reddit, now that PBS has announced they'll be televising impeachment hearings, what will the drinking game rules be? Sorry if this ends up being long, but it's angered me for quite some time. About 10 years ago my mother at age 69 had a massive stroke. They didn't expect her to live, let alone come out of it mostly alright. Which she did, except for some vision loss in her left eye. Not total, just peripheral. So she can only see perfectly straight out of that eye. So after about a year recovering from the stroke and the ensuing infection from the surgery that ended up being worse than the stroke itself, she decides she wants to go get tested to see if she can retain her driver's license. Required by law in my province of Canada. My father was not well either, as he had a long-term terminal illness, so I packed them both up in my truck and take them to the DMV. Me and my father happily assuming there is no ducking way in hell she will pass. Aside from her vision issues, the amazingly quick-witted and swift woman I grew up with was very unsure of herself at all times and took forever to make the small. She was home from running around, then around 1 p.m. I get a call from her cell phone, this phone I bought her that she mostly ignored except to charge it. I couldn't understand a word she said, she was so upset on the phone. I managed to get her general allocation out of her and hopped in a car and more than exceeded speed limit getting down there. Upon arriving there are tow ambulances, shoes in front of her car and it's up on the curb. She's sitting on the curb next to it bawling her eyes out and I'm terrified she's killed someone. Turns out a man and his son were walking out of the soccer pitch next to the road, began to cross in the crosswalk and she didn't see them. She thankfully only struck the father and aside from being banged up he wasn't super seriously injured. Because of my job I knew most of the police officers in the city, so one of them offered to follow me back to her house so she could take me back down to get her car. By that time I had done so and got back to old mysterious stranger. Here in Illinois my grandpa had to do it every year after 75. That's a great idea. I'm going to call my 68-year-old congressman and ask him to support such legislation. Edit, most driving laws are passed by state legislators, who usually do drive themselves. Old retired guy here. 74 years old to be precise. I would accept such a test provided it was only to catch really age-related diseases. Dementia, poor reflexes, etc. I live in a retirement community and most of the people who should not have a license have already given them up. The first day I was here I heard a conversation between two guys. Guy 1, I just turned 88 and turned in my driver's license. Guy 2, why would you do that? Guy 1, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in jail. I'm all for retesting people, however, I'm not sure what you mean by specialized. The requirements for good driving don't change with age, so it should be the same test. Ideally, we'd all be retested every 10 years or so until we hit 60, then we're retested every 5 years. However, older folks area huge voting bloc and it's unlikely this would ever pass. I send patients for driver's evaluations if their ability to navigate through my office is concerningly questionable. Unaware drivers are just as dangerous as impaired drivers. Asterisk, let me say this about that asterisk, the neighbor I love is 93 and still driving, when she's up to it. She can barely see the on/off switch on her vacuum cleaner. Should she be driving? I want her to maintain independence, but at the same time, I don't think it's safe for her or others. Yet the DMV doesn't require her to take a vision exam or a competency test. Ugh, please. My grandma is practically blind and went to take her driving vision test to renew her license. She failed, but the lady at the DMV felt bad so she had her take it again and gave her hints so she could pass it. So now my practically blind grandma is out on the road still. It's for their safety as much as anyone else's. I'm so mad that the lady at the DMV was so responsible as to let her keep driving. All for it? When I was 14 my friend was coming to my house and he got killed by my next door neighbor who happened to be elderly. My friend was on his skateboard and he was just up the street from my house. From the position of his body and where elderly guy stopped his car I could see he made a super sharp left turn that killed him and ran over my other friend. The other friend survived and recovered from his injuries. But my other friend not so lucky. Oh, and my granddad has Alzheimer's and frequently forgets where he is, and I think he still has his license, though my grandma finally took his keys. I'm an eye doc and I'd be all for it. You know how often I get berated or threatened by geriatrics when I strongly suggest that they quit driving because they no longer meet the legal requirements for driving. People should have to retake the driver's test every 10 years if not 20. I've seen too many terrible drivers of all ages. Deleted. Can we make everyone take it? Seriously, I see more horrible drivers in the commuting age bracket than in the retired age bracket. My grandma rear-ended a line of stopped cars on the highway at full speed, no brakes, with my 5-year-old brother in the car because she thought she saw a deer on the side of the road. She's been in another, less serious wreck, and has come to a dead stop while on the highway because she forgot where she was going multiple times since then. My dad had to unplug her battery and tell her that her car doesn't work anymore so she would start asking for rides. I would love if they took age into account in some way. I'm not an expert on anything so I don't know how they would do it, so that families wouldn't have to be torn between treating their elders like a child or worrying if they're going to get a call from the hospital anytime they're behind through heel. My fiancé's brother was killed riding his motorcycle Sunday by a 91-year-old who pulled out in front of him. He left behind a wife and 3 children. He was one of the best guys I ever met. We are all devastated and it could have been prevented. That man had no business behind the wheel. My fiancé's brother was killed riding his motorcycle Sunday by a 91-year-old who pulled out in front of him. He left behind a wife and 3 children. He was one of the best guys I ever met. We are all devastated and it could have been prevented. That man had no business behind the wheel. I'd be okay with it if over 70 drivers are statistically more likely to get into accidents. I'd be okay with it if over 70 drivers are statistically more likely to get into accidents. I live in a town that caters to older people, and watching them drive is painful. By them, I mean end of middle age and up. From going 30 km/h in a 70 km/h zone, to watching them stare out the side window while going through that same zone. They swerve from side to side. I refuse to go anywhere with my grandpa driving. Ash is now a horrible driver and has nearly crashed the car multiple times, then blames it on other drivers. However, I want to say that only elderly people need to be tested. I would hate having to do so, but we all should be tested. Just last night teenagers drove over a school's fence in a large truck. People saw them, cops haven't caught them. Younger people speed more, usually 70 in a 50. In just today, I got stuck behind someone doing 20 km/h in a 50 zone, and then while I was going 60 km/h someone flew past me like I was standing still. The roads would be better if we were all retested, and in regards to Midtown, if cops would actually do their job. Going severely. We need statistics to show us which demographics cause the most accidents over distance driven. If the over 70 leads in this, then yes. We need statistics to show us which demographics cause the most accidents over distance driven. If the over 70 leads in this, then yes. As an insurance professional, just because you have been doing something for a long time, does not mean you are good at it. Drivers should be tested every 5 years, not just once you hit a certain age. Everyone should take a standardized road test every 5 years. I'm for it. The inability for old people to drive would result in them voting en masse for public transportation improvements. I'm for it. The inability for old people to drive would result in them voting en masse for public transportation improvements. By the time the law was passed, self-driving cars will be available. Or how about you just have to do a refresher course every 10 years? There are a lot of people out there with fully functional senses that still need a reminder about the rules of the road. I'd be all for it if we can compensate them by providing transportation to those who can no longer drive for low cost. Self-driving cars may soon fit this position. They should make everyone take driver's ed classes every 10 years. It's ridiculous to think someone who passed driver's ed even 20 years ago knows all the new traffic laws and car technology. Ontario has testing every 2 years for 80+. 70 is a bit young for that, honestly. Edit. I'm surprised at how vehemently everyone disagrees with me that 70 is a bit young. It may be true that I just happen to know a lot of abnormally strong and healthy older people, but most of the 70+ I know in no way fit sickly, doddering image I think a lot of us have of the elderly. Just like the majority of 20 and under don't fit their responsible, reckless image a lot of people have of kids. According to these, admittedly old, stats, www.allcountries.org/us census/1045_age_of_driver_and_number_in.html, The vast majority of traffic fatalities are caused by younger people. A better solution is to test everyone every few years, and have stricter medical conditions, for everyone. This has been tried, but the organizations like AARP are very powerful and shoot down this type of legislation. Old people vote. It's hard enough to book a driving test these days. It takes a good 4 months in the UK. This would worsen the situation. Based on the state of driving I see every day, everyone should have to pass a driver's test every 5 years. It won't happen. I'm assuming you're talking about the US. The DMV is a state-level agency, not federal, so if one state were to have that law, another state may not have it. It won't happen. I'm assuming you're talking about the US. The DMV is a state-level agency, not federal, so if one state were to have that law, another state may not have it. 70 seems a little young these days. I have a neighbor that I fish with at least once a week. He drives his truck, towing a base boat, without issue, and he's 71 or maybe 72. Of course maybe he's the exception. But I can see a test for people of a certain age. I'm just not sure what age I'd make the law. Maybe 75? My chick's 86-year-old grandmother drives, but she keeps it daytime hours during clear weather and stays within about a 5-mile radius in our small town. Grocery store, pharmacy, post office, doctor appointments/vet visits, etc. She's not had an accident, but I could understand a driving test for her. Really though, her understanding her limitations keeps things safe for her and others. It's such an individual scenario, but I guess we'd have to draw a line somewhere. Over 70? My aunt started getting dementia at 58 and should have had her license taken then and there. Test us every 10 years or with referral from a doc. Perhaps this would be best applied to the overall population. Retest with license renewal every 10 to 20 years by default, IMO. Cop here. I can only speak from my experience, but I've dealt with many more crashes involving teens to 30s than elderly folks. Mostly because the younger folks are eyeballs, deep in their phones. IMO driving tests in the US need to be more difficult and have the driver face most every scenario with at least 2 versions of each. In addition, this should have to be renewed every 5 or 10 years with your theyll. I'm a fire engine driver in OC/LA in Sion. There are too many drivers, Garden Grove and TLA, that don't know to pull over and just stop or try and make their turn before we catch up. Car accidents are the leading fatality for a reason. Secret to old life like Japan? Better driving habits and rules. My father-in-law had some muscular degeneration for a few years before he passed away. He couldn't physically lift his feet, and sitting wasn't much better. He ran a stop sign, and almost hit another car and a pedestrian with my wife in the car because he couldn't move his foot from the gas to the brake fast enough. She took his license out of his wallet and threw it in the fire when they got home. He was pissed for a long time because in his head he was perfectly able to drive, and didn't even recall his near accident. Who knows how often that actually happened when we weren't around. I'd rather see mass adoption of autonomous vehicles that would give the elderly the freedom of transportation without the need for driving. I believe they would self-police themselves to autonomous vehicles over driving themselves. In my experience, it seems like everyone needs a refresher after, let's say, 10 years. One reason is traffic laws change without our knowledge, except for maybe an article on page 6 of the paper. For example, I just learned that in PA they passed a law in June 2016 that allows drivers to go through a red light that isn't changing. Also, it seems that everyone thinks that turn signals and speed limits are optional and the left lane is for going the same speed as everyone else. Why is this so highly upvoted? I want everyone to retest every 5 years, period, and I want the test to actually be both relevant to real driving and failable if I suck. Hey, you made it to the end, nice job. Remember to like and subscribe, it's free and you can unsub whenever you want. If you don't want to die, drink every time someone admits they were wrong. One shot for every no one is above the law. If you still have a witch's hat laying around from Halloween, you can have a person wear it. It'll rotate around the room on team or whenever a new person is introduced during proceedings. Whenever the term witch hunt is used, you all scream burn through witch and the person in the hat takes a shot of fireball. Most of these suggestions are jokes about drinking continuous libute. If you want a drinking game that's really about the fundamental impact of the hearings, 1. Every time a witness suddenly realizes, oh no, I shouldn't have said that. 2. Every time a GOP questioner suddenly realizes, oh no, I shouldn't have asked that. 3. Every time a carefully crafted narrative falls apart and the witness is redirected into explaining a contradiction between their testimony and a. previous statements, b. previous testimony, c. written evidence. When it goes to the Senate, I'm going to tape a cherry tomato Tommy TV and see how many times McConnell's mouth goes near it. Hello all you YouTube channels and clickbait news websites shamelessly stealing the responses from this and claiming them as your own. I see you. Drink every time someone doesn't answer the question. I don't recall equals drink. A shot of peach schnapps, which is beyond gross. IMHO, every time you hear the word impeach. A shot of Jaeger every time you hear the word tremendous. International drinking rules. Every time a county is name-checked in the impeachment hearing, you must drink a shot of the most famous national drink. Russia, vodka. Ukraine, Horlicka. China, Beiju. USA, bourbon. Rules. If there's anything we should have learned in the last few years, it's that there are no rules. Drink whenever, and then try to dodge the consequences the day after. Rule 1, drink heavily to dull the pain. Rule 2, there is no rule 2. Take a drink every time Russia is mentioned. Take a drink every time Russia is mentioned. There's gonna be a lot of people needing liver transplants after this week. There's gonna be a lot of people needing liver transplants after this week. Drink every time PBS is threatened with defunding. Drink every time PBS is threatened with defunding. If we turn the impeachment hearings into a drinking game, we better have a death count on the screen to count how many people got alcohol poisoning from playing the drinking game. Ah, the lucky ones. Take a shot every time you hear quid pro quo and try not to die. Every time Jim Jordan doesn't have on a jacket, drink. Take a shot every time one of the following is mentioned, asterisk fake news, asterisk witch hunt, asterisk civil war. Take a shot every time someone, asterisk makes a question irrelevant to the proceedings to try and confuse the issue, asterisk brings up whataboutism, asterisk dodges the question instead of answering it, asterisk blames the other party, asterisk blames someone else not party affiliated, asterisk blames someone else within their party, asterisk returns a question with an insult instead of an answer. I figure you'll be unconscious within 15 minutes to a half an hour, depending on your tolerance. Take a shot whenever Putin is mentioned. A vodka, obviously. Take a drink every time you catch a rhetorical fallacy. www.mvrhs.org/english-depth/shark/link/general%20 information/rhetorical %20 fallacies %20 u %20 Texas %20 at %20 Austin.pdf, of any kind, 2-page PDF warning. The moment anyone says anything, remain stone cold sober, watching every last second and remembering how we wound up in this situation. Scroll on Twitter under the hashtag at the same time and drink every time someone mentions they would start a civil war if Trump is impeached. Open bottle, drink until empty. Repeat. You will need it. I've been playing this drinking game since 2016. I'm not sure how much my liver can take. Edit jokes on me, apparently I'm a champ, cheers. Take a shot for every person you register to vote for the 2020 elections, hashtag democracy. Take a shot for Hillary's emails, Hunter Biden, if anyone says MAGA in its abbreviated or full form, do nothing Democrats, a Trump tweet containing the phrase witch hunt with at least one spelling error in the tweet, perfect phone call. Finish your drink for Trump promoting an anti-Hillary video on Twitter, any mention of Kofvave, a red herring involving MS-13, any mention of Xi or Putin by a Republican power hour starts with Ivanka promoting her brand or getting no Chinese patents, absolutely any mention of Barron by a member of Trump family, Trump saying the words duck or crap on live TV. Edit, holy what, thanks for the plat. Now I feel like I have to actually do this. Take a drink anytime. 1. A Republican complains about the process being unfair. 2. A Republican questions the motives of a witness. 3. A Republican mentions Hillary, Biden, or Obama. 4. A Democrat mentions Russia, Ukraine, or the Mueller report. 5. Anyone utters the words quid pro quo. 6. A Republican declares the process a waste of time. Shoot a whole bottle of Jack. If 1. A Republican admits that Donald Trump did something wrong. 2. A Democrat says the process is a waste of time. Have fun and may you not get alcohol poisoning. Take a shot every time a Republican calls for a yes and no vote and makes them tally every vote. Take a shot every time someone pulls their phone out and doesn't act like they care about the hearings. Take a shot every time they ask to repeat the question. Maybe take a drink every time someone answers a question honestly the first time it's asked. You know, like, if you have a tow drive afterward or something. Can someone give me a rundown on what's happening? I'm a completely ducking stupid and I live under a rock. Donald Trump withheld military aid that had been guaranteed to Ukraine, one of our international allies. He told the Ukrainian president the aid would come if he agreed to publicly announce that he was investigating the Bidens and the previous Ukrainian administration's attempts to collude with the DNC and attack the 2016 election. That last bit is a conspiracy theory floated by Paul Manafort back in 2016 before the election that for some reason the DNC colluded with Ukraine to hack and release their own emails. Because reasons. A foreign intelligence official in the White House heard about all this and was concerned and filed a whistleblower complaint. That complaint got held up and Congress was not notified, which legally they should have been. The whistleblower then reached out to Congress to ask, hey, I filed a complaint and it should have been given to you by now. Do you know about this? Congress did not know, as the complaint was being held up by White House officials. Install. Every time a felony is added to the list, take a drink. I'm assuming he's going to live tweet. So every time he angrily responds to an accusation, take a drink. If his tweet mentions witch hunt or insults the Democrats, take 2 drinks. If he specifically calls out Nancy Pelosi or AOC, take 3 drinks. Every time a congressperson asks a stupid question, take a drink. Every time Republicans conveniently move their criteria for impeachment, take small a sip. They are going to be doing this a lot. You don't want to get alcohol poisoning. 1. If by land. 2. If by sea. Trump 2. Drunk drinking game player, S1 to infinite age, 18/21, depending on legality in your region, time frame, as long as you can hold a beverage in your hand, because this might take a while. Rules: every player sits in front of the TV, with a beverage in hand. You should choose a good session beverage, this is going to get you proper duct. As the impeachment process is progressing, players should be listening for the various chugging rules. When a rule is violated, each player must take a sip from their respective beverage. Don't rush this, honestly, be smart. Chug rules *. When someone says quid pro quo, raise your drink on salute, then chug *. When someone calls the whistleblower failure/traitor, make a pirate erg and sip *. When anyone uses a whataboutism, stand up, spin around 360, and consume *. If anyone mentions fake news, smack your forehead and say duh, then imbibe *. If anyone mentions Giuliani, take the little green man off your glass, then take a glug. Shot every time the narrative changes between there was no quid pro quo and there was quid pro quo, but that's fine. Every time someone refuses to answer a direct question, whether through dancing around it or saying they can't recall, or can't answer, etc., chug for 3 seconds. Hopefully this helps you get through one person without dying for alcohol poisoning. Or every time someone says Trump, take a shot. Just drink constantly. Don't stop drinking until this whole goddamn thing is over and we can get back to the real reality we split off from in 2012. Promise to give up drinking if Trump gets impeached. 1 drink, every time the same Trump or Biden is mentioned. 2 drinks, every time Ukraine is mentioned. 3 drinks, every time impeach or impeachment is said. Finish your drink, every time someone takes one of those awkward gulps of water. 1 drink, every time the same Trump or Biden is mentioned. 2 drinks, every time Ukraine is mentioned. 3 drinks, every time impeach or impeachment is said. Finish your drink, every time someone takes one of those awkward gulps of water. Please don't do this. You'll all die of alcohol poisoning no matter what the rules are. Nice try, funeral companies. Every time you want the world to end, drink a bottle of whiskey. Watch it with someone from the other side of the fence, and each of you drinks every time the other says something you think is obviously dumb. You'll both be hammered in minutes. We all just tweet sad after we finish a bottle. How about every time a congressman, or woman, asks a question and then interrupts the person trying to answer it, we hito yourselves in the side of the head with a hammer. I like beer. I drank beer, I still drink beer. I like beer. Doyle like beer, Senator. The past 3 years has already done enough damage to my liver. I'm going to put together impeachment bingo cards instead. I assume that every rule set degenerates to drink non-stop until drinking more is no longer possible. Whether that is because you have run out of digestive space, are too drunk to successfully consume additional liquor, or are dead will depend on the individual. Drink every time you hear Clinton. Take a drink every time someone answers a question with I don't remember. Shot of tequila for president, shot of vodka for Trump. The American people. Hey, you made it to the end, nice job. Remember to like and subscribe, it's free and you can unsub whenever you want.